It's now my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Bernie Hurd, who knows a thing or two about initiating young people's journey in music. Bernie is the Music in Me director at the Australian Youth Orchestra, which some of you may well have taken part in, where she leads a national program focused on expanding access to quality music education through teacher mentoring, advocacy, and collaboration. Bernie has held senior roles across the arts, including Executive Director of Gondwana Choirs, CEO of Sydney Youth Orchestras, and Artist Development Manager at the Sydney Symphony, where she helped pioneer orchestral training programs with the late Richard Gill, AO. She's been a Churchill Fellow. She's worked internationally to strengthen pathways for young musicians. She is a proud alumna of the Sydney Conservatorium of Music and currently completing, get this, an MBA at the University of Sydney Business School. Seems a long way from the Conservatorium, but is of great use in her work and continues to champion the transformative power of music education. What better speaker could we have? Bernie Hurd, it's a great pleasure to welcome you back to the university, and I invite you to deliver the occasional address.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Presiding Pro-Chancellor, Professor Reid, Sydney Conservatorium faculty, distinguished guests, proud families, friends, and most importantly, you, the graduating class of 2025. I begin by acknowledging that we gather today on Gadigal land. I've lived here and most of my adult life and grew up on Wiradjuri country in eastern Riverina. These places have shaped who I am, and I feel a deep connection to the Australian lands that raised me. I pay my respects to elders, those who have walked before us, and those who guide us today, and extend that same respect to all First Nations people celebrating with us today. On a day of ceremony, learning, and music, we remember First Nations people who have sustained the oldest continuous culture on Earth. So congratulations to you all. You've followed your passion, made sacrifices and difficult choices to be here, and are now poised at the edge of possibility. It's an honour to share this moment with you. 30 years ago, I sat exactly where you are. At graduation, I could not have imagined how my path would take me from public school classrooms to major arts organisations, but each step, unexpected as it was, built the foundation for the next. Since then, I've travelled and worked around the country and the world. I've met prime ministers, ambassadors, a pope, and pop stars, and spent significantly more time than any of that writing funding applications and budgets and acquittal reports. But in all of my work life, I feel incredibly lucky and driven to keep going. Through your studies at the Sydney Conservatorium, you've received a contemporary, high-quality education designed to equip you for the many opportunities ahead. You are graduating into a world that needs your skills, your artistry, and your leadership. You are here because of your talent and your dedication, and also because, along the way, someone or several people saw your potential. A teacher, a mentor, a conductor, someone who lit the way forward. I encourage you to think about these people today and the opportunities they provided, because your career will not only be measured by what you perform or create, it will be measured by how you pass it on. Look to the people supporting you here today, your family and loved ones, and take a moment before today is over to thank them for their support as well. Music is not a solitary pursuit. It is a relevant, evolving expression of the culture of now, and it is for everyone. But access to music education in Australia is increasingly unequal. Often it depends on your school, your principal, or your family's resources. It shouldn't be left to chance. Many Australian children now complete their entire primary education without music. That is a structural crisis for our industry, and one we must all address. As you begin your next chapter, a few thoughts from my own journey. Be open to possibilities. Careers in music are rarely linear. They're built by following opportunities, even when they're uncomfortable or unfamiliar. Say yes to projects that feel a little bigger than you. There have been many times throughout my career when I've said yes to something which I've never done before, and despite that niggling imposter syndrome, I've dug in, done the work, and built a team I can trust around me. Value what it is to be a whole musician, not only a soloist, but a collaborator, not only a performer, but a teacher, a mentor, community builder, and an audience member. Keep getting out there and hearing what others are doing. Music is made in classrooms, festivals, bars, cross-art form collaborations, small halls, and in other places and ideas that no one else thought to try. Some of you will perform, some will teach, some will conduct, compose, research, produce, or in other ways contribute to and advocate for the arts. Each of these roles matter. And throughout your career, you may find yourself changing pathway as opportunities present themselves. It did for me. Contribute to the regions. I came from rural New South Wales, and the Riverina Conservatorium was a beacon for me. Regional communities are vibrant, resilient, and hungry for music. You'll find meaning by contributing outside the obvious centres of power, not to mention appreciative audiences and communities where your musical contribution is genuinely appreciated. In the regions, the audience thanks you at the door. Everyone knows the cellist's mother, and someone usually hands you a scone wrapped in foil. That's success. Value your performing colleagues, but also the producers, administrators, marketers, librarians, fundraisers, and operations staff. Those behind the scenes are often the first ones to arrive and the last ones to leave, and they work with dedication and belief in what you bring. Great artists value everyone who helps bring their music to the stage. Treat them with respect and professionalism. Relationships matter. That's how careers are built and how they endure. Think big and be brave, especially if you don't see yourself reflected in the leadership around you, or if you may experience barriers to traditional pathways of leadership. As a student, the CSA helped me discover the value of collaboration and advocacy. As a woman, and for much of my career a single parent, I actively chose to step forward, and I found strong advocacy and generous support in those around me. Seek mentors, and when the time comes, be one. And finally, a note especially to the music education graduates. You've truly received a world-class education here. I see music teachers across the country, and Sydney Con graduates are the very best. Know that your work is essential to the future of our art form. I look forward to seeing you out in the field. So who lit the way for you? Now, who will you all light the way for? Wherever your path takes you, remember this. Talent brought you here. Discipline sustained you. And relationships and generosity will define your legacy. Congratulations, graduates. May you walk with courage, with kindness, and with purpose. Thank you.